December 11, 2023. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the 2000 tick chart on the NinjaTrader 8 platform. This is the new ES contracts, the March 24. Technically, the December 23 have set, well, 5 more days until expiration. But if you look at the volume between the two, you're going to notice that starting this week, the shift has occurred. There's going to be more trading volume on the ES March 24 contracts or the ESH 24 as opposed to the ES Z23. Now the Z23, there is still quite a bit of volume, but I started trading the new contracts now, even though there's still 5 more days or 4 more days now. And as each day gets closer to Friday, you're going to notice a precipitous drop in the ES Z23 because if you're still holding contracts, you're a big institution, a lot of those contracts will be rolled over to the new H24s. Okay, so today I didn't really see too many setups. The trading, there was a lot of volume, but I think it was a lot of rotation from the old contracts to the new. This is what the chart looked like today. And as of when I'm speaking, there was already 2 million, the volume was already over 2 million, which is quite, substantial, pretty strong. But as you can tell, there weren't very many candles for a day like that much volume. Again, it's because there's just a lot of rolling of contracts over. This is a 2000 tick chart, meaning not 2000 shares, but at least 2000 shares. And this tick chart's more, every single tick represents a single trade, and a single trade could include multiple shares or multiple contracts. So just keep that in mind. There's only one piece of economic data that came out that may have moved the market, but in my opinion, it didn't really do anything. It was the 10-year bond auction, which came out at around 10:01 Pacific Standard, which is about right here. Now you could argue it moved the market or not. I just think it was a nothing burger. And this is what the chart looked like today. It's kind of tight considering this. It only moved about, let's see, about 20, 25 points. And out of this, I didn't see very many setups. I took one trade, and in hindsight, I think it was very risky. I should have just avoided it. So in theory, if I were more clear-headed, I think this would have been a no trade day. But I took one trade and it was profitable. I did make notes to myself that it wasn't a good trade, so I should be very careful of that. Just because it was profitable doesn't mean it's something I should repeat. So I'm going to go into the trade right now. As you can see, this is the pre-market highs and the pre-market lows. Technically, they're actually a little bit lower, a little bit higher, but I just kind of had it a little bit tighter because it fit better as the day progressed. And there was one shallow leg up, a sell-off, and then a second shallow leg up. I'm going to kind of change the color on this just to make things a little bit easier for myself. Okay. So in the pre-market, there wasn't that much going on, and it was a very tight range. So I thought it was going to be a range day. And then the market opened. As you can see, candles are pretty side by side. There's just a lot of congestion right now. It finally creates what I believe is a second entry short right here. So it's a new low, it's a first entry short, pullback, it's a second entry short. Now here, when I saw this, I wasn't really thinking going short, but I did see the possibility of a second entry short because this is a possible top of the range. However, since there was these big spike throughs and mainly the body stayed within this kind of range here, I wasn't too confident on my range being super valid. And it could have been a failed breakout, and it is a good signal bar, but it already had these 3-4 strong pushes up. So, now it has a pullback and it's still kind of like inside. It kind of broke at the middle. And I was wondering if it's going to continue a second leg up because I was debating whether it was going to, if this range was valid or was the top of the pre-market range going to be more strong. So I wasn't sure. I left it alone. It looked like it would have worked, but I'm okay. I skipped that trade because it just didn't look super high probability enough for me. Excuse me. I did see a new high here. It's first entry long. It's about to create a second entry long. Excuse me, all right. Just had a coughing fit. Didn't need to record that. So there's a new high. It's a first entry long. It creates what I think is going to be a second entry long. And similar to the top of the range, I wasn't 100% sure that this was the valid bottom of the range. It looks like it is, but it is very spindly down here. But it is a second entry long here, and I thought it might have been a possible trade because it is kind of a low risk candle. Let's see. The candle itself is candle itself is about 6 ticks, so it'd be an 8 tick risk. But I decided to skip this one. It flashes up, so this looked like it would have worked. Definitely, if you were going for 1 point, even 2 points, it would have worked. And it flashes up. It broke out of the top, and I'm thinking it might pull back in. At one point, I did have this as a trend line, and I later turned it into a trend channel, but I ended up drawing it here, but it was kind of floating. I was doing a lot of adjustments in real time when this is still printing. Comes back, it creates this higher low. Now it creates this higher low. This is actually where I decided to take a trade. Pretty shortly, you're going to see it. But the problem is, I wasn't 100%. This, in hindsight, was a rather risky thing to do because I'm already at the top of this range. Whether the range is valid or not, it's a little unclear. So I shouldn't have really taken this trade. This could have been a failed breakout and it could have come back down. So what happened was when I took the trade, it was very late because if I was going to take the trade, I probably should have been taking it on this red candle. But when I saw this red candle close like this isn't a very strong indication that this is a safe trade to go long or even to go short. This is kind of telling you nothing is super clear. Nevertheless, I took the trade, as you can see, and I also took it 1 tick above this guy, same matching high as this guy. This is a poor entry. This is like, what are you doing? This isn't a trade that I should have taken at all. And I actually took it. I left it alone. I was lucky to get a scalp out, but this is no clear indication to go long. It could have easily gone straight back down because it looks like it's bouncing within this range, and this could have been a failed breakout. Too early to call a breakout pullback. And so, as I said, not only was this entry late, there was no clear setup. However, I got rewarded for this bad behavior, which I did note to myself is bad behavior. I shouldn't do that. But I'm just going to keep moving on now. I mean, I know now not to do that. I'm very sure this was a little bit of FOMO and emotional chasing because I thought I saw something here. It wasn't too clear, and I thought this would have been a possible trade, and I missed it. So it's like 2 setups I missed in quick succession. So suddenly I suddenly pretty much invented a setup, and I took it, which is a really bad idea. Then trading kind of chops sideways. This is very, very noisy. Nothing safe to take here. Comes back down. I'm thinking this might be a valid channel at this point. Excuse me. And it keeps chopping. You do have a new low here. It's the first entry short, second entry short right here, but this isn't a very good indication to go short. It's above the EMA. Things are trending up. It's counter trend. So, this is something you should skip. Prices then keep chopping. Let's go ahead and adjust that. Comes down on this green channel. Again, it pops up to the top. So I'm a little bit more confident now that this yellow channel is where prices are staying. It finally breaks out through the top, and I'm thinking it's going to be a failed breakout, come back into the yellow range. It dwells outside for quite a bit of time, comes back down. I'm wondering if I'm going to see it bounce, but I don't have a trade planned. It breaks out, and I actually see this setup, which I think what I call an almost setup because it's a new high. It's a first entry long, second entry long. Now the second entry long, this is a signal bar for the second entry long. So when you see this, you wouldn't really be thinking I'm going to go long. When you see this, okay, you could say, okay, it looks like prices are coming back in. You don't know if this green channel coming down is valid yet, even though this is a good signal bar. If you want to take this as a signal bar, but you're also running into the EMA. When this forms, I'm thinking this could potentially be a failed second entry long, but it's an almost setup. And here's what I wanted it to do. I wanted to close more bearish to make me feel more confident. I also wanted this to tick and touch and confirm this down channel one more time. Then I'd feel a little more confident. So ideally, this would have went up, touched it, and closed a little bit higher to give me a little bit more room and confidence that prices are coming down. But it didn't do any of that, so I decided to just sit on my hands. I watched, and lo and behold, it flashes down and works out. But I'm not on that trade. You could be looking for a higher or lower high here to confirm your failed second entry long, but this is too far from the EMA. Price is already looks like the trade's already been made. It's be chasing. The overall bias has been kind of bullish, so it's hard to justify taking a long or short at this point because it just looks a little bit choppy. Prices then continue moving down, breaks out of this green channel. There's an overshoot on this side, kind of makes a matching overshoot. But this is an ugly channel, doesn't fit very clean. Even if you kind of dragged it a little bit lower, like where would you put it? Right here? Right here? Your guess is as good as mine, right? So even if you put it there, it looks a little bit noisy. And also, I do notice like prices are kind of slowing down. So I do see a new low here. I counted this together as one big new low. So technically it's a new low here, count resets, a new low here. You could say this is first entry short, second entry short, and technically you'd have third entry short. But the way I saw it is potentially this is all grouped together. This might be in a trading range, and I saw this as a new low, visual first entry short, second entry short, then also a new high, first entry long, this is a hidden second entry long. So clearly a first entry long here broke 1 point higher. Then here it broke one tick below this red bar, then reversed itself all the way up. So it's actually first entry long, pullback, second entry long. Second entry long was made entirely in this candle. And I thought, had I been more sharp, this might have been a possible trade because it is bouncing off the EMA. EMA is flattening out, but it's just come off this, downtrend. And so you could see it as a potential reversal. And what I saw was it's a possible trade, but you would need to have taken it on engulfing because if you waited for this to close, then I feel like you don't really have much room and confidence before you potentially hit the top of this range. So this would have had to been taken rather quickly and aggressively. And then prices continue chopping. So if you did take it right, you say you took it one tick above here, you'd have to sit through this anguish, this uncertainty. And it's like from 8:50 Pacific Standard all the way over to about 9:02. So you'd be sitting for 12 minutes watching these things kind of snail along. And I just don't like that, especially on this type of setup where it's not super clear. Then prices continue moving, it chops, and I think I see this as a potential trend line going up. And at one point, I first had this orange channel, used to be green, and a little bit lower. And I was just watching, kind of chops around, it breaks out. So I decided, okay, maybe this is actually a little bit higher here now. So you can encapsulate this as in all one range. Every time it came to the EMA and it touched off of here, I was wondering if there was a setup. So I did look back in hindsight and I said, was there a trade here? Not really. The reason is because I didn't have this trend line fully confirmed. These are almost touches. And this isn't a very good signal bar for me to feel confident. And maybe a lower high here, but you're already pushing against the most localized high. And then when it came back here and bounced off again, yes, you have two key entry points, but you don't really have any real other setup. It's just a first entry long, if at that. But this is like an inside bar. And as prices keep moving up, certainly felt like, okay, clearly there is a bullish trend going back up, but all the price action before it was just, well, it's just been very slow and ugly. So then prices continue moving. You only get a first entry long all over the place. Again, another first entry long. You get a double top here. So it becomes a first entry long here. Technically, you have a second entry long right here and potentially a fail breakout. But the problem with this is I considered, again, an almost setup because here you clearly see things moving sideways, but it's not a clear and clean range. If you drew it where I drew it here, this is only more apparent in hindsight. You could have had one touch, two touch, and maybe a fail breakout moving back in and new high, first entry long, second entry long. There's two legs down for sure, because let's see, one leg down here and then a matching leg. So it looks pretty close. I'm just a little weary because I wasn't 100% sure. I needed this signal bar to close a little more bullish, then I feel a little more confident as it looks like it's breaking back into this range. And ideally, I know I'm asking for a lot. I needed this range to have a little bit more confirmation because perhaps it was a little bit higher here or a little bit lower here. It's only after the fact that I was able to kind of place it here. And then, when the trade's already gone, then I go like, oh, that was a good trade to have probably taken. But unfortunately, in real time, I didn't see it, so I had to let it go. So things are moving sideways, and it's kind of going all the way into the close now. And so here, there's no real clean setup. And I just looked back and I thought, wow, today was kind of a slow day with so much volume. It was a slow, rather noisy, junky day. Not that many setups, and even the setups that were there, they weren't very, like this one, you'd have to be pretty confident, which I wasn't. So even then, it wasn't really a good trade for me, but it was potentially a trade. This is a junky trade to have taken. I'm just lucky it worked out. And this is probably a possible trade here. And then this one here, it was an almost setup. So it's kind of continuing what I've noticed the last few weeks. It's just been really noisy, really, really funky, slow, junky trading. And I anticipate tomorrow and Wednesday might be the same, but tomorrow, since we're waiting for the FOMC meeting and declaration of interest rate hikes, which they're going to declare on Wednesday, most people think there's going to be no rate hikes and or maybe a uh, interest rate reduction. But most likely, I think most people are on the boat of nothing's going to happen, no interest rate change. And when that's revealed on Wednesday, again with Fed Pals meeting, that could cause a lot of volatility. So tomorrow, I anticipate was going to be another rather slow, junky looking day. And then Wednesday, you might have some crazy fireworks. And yeah, I had to be more careful not to take these kind of trades because although it worked today, most likely it would work only 2 or 3 times out of 10. So hopefully that was helpful.